Imagine just for a moment that time alone could heal you, that every wound would soften on its own given enough days, months, or years, that the ache in your chest would dissolve just because the clock kept ticking. But what if this idea is not healing, but avoidance? What if the hours pass, the seasons change, and yet a part of you remains untouched, unchanged? Time heals all wounds, they say. But in truth, time often hides wounds under layers of distraction, not healing them, but burying them. And buried pain does not die. It waits. Carl Jung offered a different view. That time, as we usually know it, is not the time that heals. There is clock time, chronos, and there is soul time, kairos. Chronos is linear, appointments, deadlines, calendars. But kairos is emotional, symbolic, and cyclical. It spirals. It returns to old wounds, not to punish you, but to invite you to finally face them. This is the mystery behind Ecclesiastes 3:1. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. The soul does not follow minutes, it follows meaning. Some people walk through life as if nothing is wrong, yet within them, something still waits. The same wound, the same guilt, the same silence from a moment long ago. You move forward on the outside, but inside, a part of you is stuck, frozen in a word that was never said, a gesture that never came, a presence that never arrived. This inner freeze is subtle. It shows up as exhaustion that rest cannot fix, sadness without clear reason, or a numbness that never fully lifts. Jung taught that the soul doesn't heal through passing time. It heals through meaningful presence, through a word, a gesture, a symbol. When the right sentence is spoken with full truth and timing, it's not just comforting, it's catalytic. It unlocks something ancient. It restores movement. Because some sentences aren't just language, they are sacred codes, keys that make frozen time flow again. And in that moment, something inside begins to breathe, for the first time in years. So now take the first step. Write in the comments, "I hear you now, I am here for you." Writing is the first manifestation of desire. When you write it, your soul will know you mean it. And this sentence, this small, sincere act, may be the moment your time finally starts to move again. There are wounds that don't scream. They whisper. A silent ache, a sense of being emotionally stuck in a moment you can't quite remember, but your body remembers. You smile in conversations, but feel empty afterwards. You rest, but never feel restored. You seek joy, but joy feels far away. This is not depression. This is not weakness. This is something Jung called psychic freezing, a symbolic paralysis of the soul when pain was too deep to process. In these cases, time does not pass, it stops. A part of you is no longer living forward. Instead, it waits. It hides in a moment when something should have been said, but wasn't. When someone should have protected you, but didn't. And while the world moves forward, your work, your relationships, your routines, this hidden part of you lingers in the past, like a child waiting for a parent who never came. You may not remember what happened, but your soul never forgot. You can feel this freeze in symptoms that seem to have no cause: chronic fatigue, emotional numbness, sudden sadness, fear that doesn't belong to the present moment. Jung believed these were signals from the unconscious, echoes of a moment that remains incomplete. You didn't need more time, you needed a response. You needed someone to say, "I see you, I believe you, I am here now." But what if no one ever did? This is where healing doesn't come from waiting, but from reconnecting. Not with the world, but with yourself. Your soul doesn't want you to move on, it wants you to return, to go back to that frozen place, not with fear, but with presence. Not to relive the pain, but to retrieve the part of you that stayed behind. Because until you do, every step forward will carry the weight of what was left unfinished. And here's the truth. You can be the one who returns. You can become the voice that says what should have been said, the protector who never came, the love that was missing. This is not imagination. This is sacred psychology. This is the path Jung opened, a path where you are no longer the one who waits. You become the one who heals. There are words that don't arrive from the mind. They rise from deeper places, from wounds that never stopped calling, from silences that have echoed through the years. Carl Jung believed that the psyche speaks in images, in symbols, in phrases charged with soul. And when the right sentence is finally spoken, not thought, not performed, but truly spoken, it becomes more than sound. It becomes a turning point, a portal. And through it, time itself begins to move again. It doesn't have to be grand. Often, it's something deceptively simple. I'm here for you. I love you. It wasn't your fault. These are not affirmations. They are forgotten rites. Old prayers never prayed. When you speak them with presence, not out loud to the world, but inwardly, to the part of you that waited for decades, something changes. Not in the world around you, but in the current within you, as if the soul finally hears what it always longed to believe. Somewhere, someone once whispered to themselves, "You did your best," and the tears that followed weren't of sadness, but of release. Another soul, frozen since childhood, trembled upon hearing, "You're safe now." These sentences weren't given, they were claimed, and when claimed with truth, they became keys. Not every word is a key, but when a phrase fits the wound, it turns, it opens, it breathes, and suddenly the past no longer holds the same power. That is the mystery Jung pointed to, that words, when aligned with archetype and feeling, become vessels of meaning. They are not mental, they are spiritual. They are not explanations, they are medicine, and they do not require witnesses. The soul only needs one voice, yours, the voice that says what was never said, in the tone that was always missing. So pause for a moment and listen. What is the sentence that could unfreeze your time? It may arrive gently, almost shyly, like a memory. Trust it, speak it, and feel how the air around it changes. Some phrases are not for the world. They are for the one who never stopped waiting inside you. Close your eyes and picture a hallway with no end. At the far end, a door you've never dared to open. Behind it, your younger self waits. Not frozen in a memory, but alive in another layer of time. Still wearing the fear. Still holding the words they never knew how to ask for. You step through. No applause, no spotlight. Just a presence. Yours. Finally arriving. They don't speak at first. They watch. As if asking, "Will you leave again?" You notice the tension in their shoulders, the way they hold their breath, like someone used to being disappointed. And so you don't rush, you don't rescue, you kneel. You become small too, not out of weakness, but as a sign of reverence, because this child has carried more than anyone ever knew. Jung taught that the psyche longs for restoration, not through intellect, but through sacred recognition. The kind that happens when eye meets eye and nothing needs to be explained. Maybe you reach out, maybe not. Maybe you just sit in silence, letting your presence speak what language never could. And in that stillness, a shift begins, not in them, but in you. The armor loosens. The heart remembers how to soften. You don't need to fix them. That was never the task. You are here to witness them, to hold space where others walked away. And maybe then, just then, you hear it. Not from your lips, but from theirs. Why didn't anyone stay? The ache returns, but this time you're strong enough to stay. And maybe, without trying, a phrase escapes you. I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to never leave again. This is not a fantasy. This is archetypal reunion. You didn't travel back in time, you brought time forward. And in doing so, you've become what Jung called the reconciler of opposites, the bridge between what was abandoned and what is becoming whole. A phrase, no matter how powerful, is not enough on its own. It must be embodied. It must become action, gesture, ritual. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious does not speak the language of logic. It speaks through symbols, through acts that carry meaning beyond reason. This is why so many people feel release not when they understand, but when they do something with what they've felt. A phrase spoken with presence is a beginning, but to truly transform, it must be given form. So take that sentence, your sentence, and give it a body. Write it down, not on your phone with your hand, on real paper, in a moment of silence, as if you're signing a sacred agreement with your soul. I will protect you now. I forgive you. You are safe. Write it as if you're planting it into the soil of your psyche. Then read it out loud, not to anyone else, to yourself, and not like a chant, but like a promise. You can fold the paper and place it somewhere meaningful, in a book you love, in a box of memories, in a drawer only you open, or burn it if your soul whispers that it's time to let it go. What matters is not the beauty of the gesture, but its truth. This is not performance. This is participation in the mystery of your own becoming. The unconscious responds to what is felt and symbolized, not what is merely said. Jung compared these moments to inner alchemy, the turning of raw emotion into new meaning. When your actions match your inner truth, something ancient begins to move. Time reorders itself. The past loosens its grip. You may not even notice it at first, but the next time you speak or walk or rest, something will feel different. Something will feel lighter. You are no longer living under the weight of the unsaid. Just before the soul begins to shift, something strange often happens. Resistance appears, doubt, delay. The mind suddenly questions everything. Maybe I'm overreacting. This is silly. I'll do this later. Carl Jung understood this well. He taught that the psyche is not only filled with a longing to heal, it is also entangled with a fear of losing what is familiar. Even if that familiarity is pain, even if it's silence, even if it's self-abandonment, pain becomes identity. The sadness you've carried for so long becomes a place to hide, a reason to hold back, a way to avoid stepping fully into life. And so when a sentence begins to crack the surface, when a ritual starts to stir the frozen parts, fear comes rushing in. Not because it's wrong, but because it's working. The ego senses the narrative changing, and it resists. It whispers, "Who will you be without your sadness? What happens if you stop waiting to be chosen?" That's the edge between trauma and transformation. Jung described this edge as the confrontation with the shadow, the part of us that sabotages growth not because it wants to destroy us, but because it's afraid of being left behind. And so we stall. We say, "Not now." We pretend the sentence wasn't that important. We tell ourselves we need more time. But the truth is we're not waiting, we're hesitating. And beneath that hesitation is the invitation: evolve or repeat. You are not too fragile to face your own freedom. In fact, you're ready now more than ever. And freedom doesn't mean forgetting, it means reauthoring. It means standing at the doorway between the old story and the new one, and choosing to step through, not with perfection, but with presence, even if your voice shakes, even if the old sadness tries to pull you back. Because this is the threshold, this is the turning, and if you feel fear now, good. That means you're close. The ego only panics when transformation is near. But the soul breathes deeper. The soul says, "Finally, you're listening." And once you cross, there is no going back. Because the one who speaks their truth, even trembling, is no longer the one who waited in silence. Something shifts when the sentence is spoken and the ritual is complete. It may not be dramatic. You may not even notice it at first. But slowly, the urgency fades. The invisible weight on your chest begins to lift. The future, once filled with dread or numbness, starts to look possible. Not perfect, not painless, but possible. Jung believed that when the soul is truly heard, it forms a new internal axis, a center from which your life can begin to rotate again. Decisions that once felt impossible begin to move. Old attachments lose their grip. Confusion starts to dissolve into clarity. You're not just thinking differently, you're vibrating differently, not louder, but more harmoniously. The rhythm of your life begins to align with something deeper than habit or fear, with something ancient, something that was always inside you, but couldn't speak through the noise of survival. You begin to notice subtleties. Your body rests more easily. Your breath deepens without effort. You respond to life instead of reacting. Even your relationships start to shift, not because others changed, but because you're no longer relating from the wound. You're relating from the part of you that is awake, present, real. This is not enlightenment. This is reconnection. Jung once said that the psyche will always push toward wholeness, and wholeness begins when what was split is welcomed back. The lost self, the forgotten voice, the part of you that was left waiting in some old emotional winter. But now, the seasons have changed, not because time passed, but because truth was spoken. And when truth speaks, the soul moves. So allow the silence to return, but this time let it be sacred. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of integration. The quiet after the breakthrough. The stillness that says, something real has happened here. And that stillness is not the end. It is the breath before a new life begins to form. Healing is not the end of pain. It's the beginning of movement. When the soul starts to flow again, it doesn't just dissolve sadness. It reawakens joy, creativity, connection. Things you thought were gone forever begin to return, not because someone gave them back to you, but because you cleared the space where they were waiting. Jung often described this as psychic rebirth, not a new self, but the rediscovery of the self that had been hidden behind adaptation. You might find yourself laughing without guilt, speaking without fear, creating without overthinking. This isn't a performance, it's your essence coming out of hiding. The more your soul is listened to, the more it expresses, not just in art, but in how you love, how you walk, how you hold space for others. You become magnetic, not because you're trying to attract, but because you're no longer repelling your truth. Even relationships begin to shift. Some fade, not out of bitterness, but because your energy no longer fits into old patterns of silence. Others deepen because they now meet a more authentic you. You start to see that the world wasn't cold. It was just waiting for your warmth. And now that your inner child has a voice, that voice becomes part of everything you do. There's a kind of lightness that emerges, not the lightness of escape, but of integration. You are no longer carrying the unsaid, no longer negotiating your worth, no longer shrinking to fit spaces that never saw you. That weight you've been dragging, it belonged to a version of you that didn't know it could let go. And maybe now, without even noticing it, you've stopped waiting for others to fix what only you could touch. You're no longer a seeker of saviors, you've become the source. This is the quiet power of someone who has met their shadow and spoken to it gently, someone who has turned a sentence into healing and healing into embodiment. Healing is not a final destination, it's a sacred rhythm, a devotion. Jung said that consciousness is not a fixed state, it is a practice. Just as pain becomes ingrained through repetition, so must healing. The sentence you spoke, the one that unlocked something deep, doesn't lose power over time. It gains depth. Each time you return to it, it reveals something new. Each time you speak it again, it echoes more fully through your being. Think of your healing sentence like a seed. Saying it once is planting it, but a seed that is never watered will dry. Ritual is the water, the care, the return. Every time you speak the sentence again, when you're tired, when you're afraid, even when everything seems fine, you're nourishing the space where wholeness grows. This is not weakness, this is wisdom. This is how the psyche trusts that this safety is not temporary. There will be days when you forget. That's part of being human. Days when the old patterns knock on your door, wearing new masks. Days when silence tries to return. And that's when the repetition becomes your anchor. Not like a rule, but like a breath, a quiet reminder. I am here, I remember, I protect myself now. The sentence becomes less of an emergency rescue and more of a companion, something stable beneath shifting emotions. You are cultivating a space within you where the sacred can dwell. A space where the voice that was missing now lives, where the ritual is not something you do once, but something that becomes who you are. Over time, your nervous system begins to trust. Your inner child begins to rest. Your present self becomes the guardian that the past self always needed. So today, say the sentence again. Say it softly. Say it like a prayer. Not because you're broken, but because you're remembering. And when you do, your soul will whisper back, "I know this place, we're safe here." There comes a moment, after the sentence is spoken, the gesture made, and the ritual lived, when the air itself feels different. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You are no longer waiting for time to heal you. You are no longer dependent on someone else to complete what was left undone. You have become the author of your own restoration, and from this point on, even your silence will carry a new weight, a presence that says, "I have returned to myself." So here is your closing act. Not grand, not loud, but sacred. Write your sentence again, slowly, with breath, with truth. Then place it somewhere symbolic, in a journal, inside a favorite book, folded in a box of memories. Or burn it, if your soul says it's time to release. Let this be your offering, not to anyone else, but to your own becoming. Jung believed that a single true symbol, activated with presence, moves more than years of passive reflection. And now you know this by experience. You've crossed from expectation into authorship, from waiting to witnessing. The future no longer feels like something to survive, but something to meet with your whole being. Because now, when you look forward, you're not doing it with a fractured self. You're bringing your soul with you, not rushing, not hiding, just walking in rhythm with what's real. So if this video opened a space inside you, let it stay open. Don't close it out of habit. Instead, let it deepen, let it root, let it guide. Because healing is not the end of pain, it's the beginning of truth. And from now on, you are the one who speaks what was missing. You are the presence you once needed. You are the voice that says, "I am here, and I am staying." If this sentence touched something real in you, subscribe now and watch the next video on your screen. There you'll go even deeper into the mysteries of the mind, where silence speaks, symbols heal, and truth moves faster than time.